We asked for the stunt coordinator to be there just in case it got physical. We didn't really know how volatile or angry it might get, and it ended up feeling much more like a breakup scene and became really sad.
Robby, please. You are done.
Noah, thanks for coming in today.
Thank you for having me, Ryan. Great to meet you in person.
Yes.
We've known each other like this for a long time now.
Yeah. At the onset of this experience, how much did you know about Robby?
Well, in terms of the emotional journey he goes on, I knew quite a bit. That was all fleshed out and planned in advance of, like a kind of piece of music, when it's going to peak and when it's going to valley and when we're going to hit our crescendo with it and the denouement. In terms of the details of who he is and what makes him tick, those are sparse by design as well, because, most practitioners don't wear their hearts or their educations or their personal problems on their sleeve. And guys like Robby, who've led very compartmentalized lives out of necessity as a survival instinct, let you in even less. But this is not your normal day or your normal shift for him, and he probably should have stayed home. And we watched that professional mask and demeanor erode over the course of the shift until he's no longer able to keep those compartments airtight any longer.
You could have opened the show a lot of ways. Robby could have already been at work, but you show him on this walk.
It's tricky. We talked a lot about it. If we wake up with Robby, where does he live? Does he live in a townhouse? Does he live in an apartment? Is it a loft? Is it a house? Is it dirty? Is it clean? Is he a neat freak? Are there posters on the wall? Is he alone? Does he have a dog? Does he drink? You ask all these questions, and they're kind of fun to ask and they're kind of fun to answer. But every time you answer one, you begin to define a character that is either going to be accessible or inaccessible to an audience member. So the strategic thinking was, let's not define the character. Let's let the audience define the character off his behavior and determine who he is and who they think he is, and then we'll give them clues and let them determine whether they're right or not. And that seemed to be a novel way of meting out exposition without having to establish he lives on a boat with a pet crocodile, and he pops 2 pills and swallows it down with, goat milk.
That first scene when Robby's walking to work, he's listening to a song.
Robert Bradley's Baby?
Mm-hmm. That band formed in 94, the year ER started. That band disbanded in 2009, the year ER ended. Coincidence?
You'd have to ask Scott Gemmell that question, because when Scott wrote the very first draft of the very first script, he threw that song in there. It's the only music that's slugged in the entire series, and he picked it for his own reasons. I asked him about it. He goes, he wanted something that felt kind of upbeat, and something that would not tip the bit of where we're going, something you might want to listen to clear your head and get yourself geared up for a shift. But, I didn't know that about that's amazing. I actually didn't know the song until I read it in the script, and then I listened to it, and then I listened to it religiously. I listened to it over and over again. I listened to it every day on the way to work. I listened to it from the walk I make from my dressing room to the set every day. And then I'd make that same walk that Robby makes in that pilot episode past the portrait into the emergency room. I'd replicate that every day regardless of what we were doing. It became my little ritual.
The tagline for season 1 is 15 episodes, 15 hours, 1 shift, but your typical ER shift is 12 hours.
It began with Max wanting 15 episodes. We had a very elegant 12-hour structure ready to go. But we found a wonderful way of expanding that shift to 15 hours. And the last 5 episodes of the show kind of, in some ways, redefined the show.
Episode 9 is one of 2 episodes you wrote this season. That one culminates with Doug Driscoll coming back and knocking out Dana. This is a show that has such deep respect for nurses, talks about how they sort of keep this circus afloat. So what was the significance of having Dana be the one targeted by this patient?
Violence against healthcare workers has been on the rise the last couple of years. It's part and parcel to tempers flaring from long wait times, but I think there's also something else going on, which is kind of an erosion of our own sense of decorum and decency. And we wanted to depict that, and Dana's a perfect choice because she's so instrumental to the running of the place. She's DNA to the place. She gives her life to the work, and she's an innocent victim in what happens to her. And it just underscores the importance of recognizing the strain that these people work under every day and sometimes the threat. And hopefully our empathy will increase appropriately.
Have you ever taken a patient's medication?
This is insane. This is completely insane.
I need you to open your locker.
Yeah, right.
Open your locker.
Episode 10, the big reveal that you've sort of been building to all season, is that Langdon's a drug addict. Robby is obviously furious.
Is the imprint code on these pills going to match Louis' Librium?
But probably furious for a multitude of reasons, that he didn't see this, that this sort of protege of his is maybe not who he thought he was. Why do you think it is that Robby, being someone who is constantly dealing with addicts and people struggling with these sorts of addictions, is so quick to just toss him out of the hospital?
Go home, Frank.
No, it's not like you think.
Well, it's a serious liability issue, first and foremost, if you have a doctor who could be compromised in the kind of care that they're giving. It's a massive liability, and Robby is the attending physician, so it falls on his doorstep. Additionally to that, there's the personal betrayal of having your mentee lie to you, lie to your face, and kind of gaslight you along. And then there's the reverse engineering of recognizing clues that you probably should have picked up on but didn't because of your bias or your inability or unwillingness to look at things at face value, even though you are an expert in looking at signs, behaviors, tics. So I think it's a culmination of anger at him, anger at himself.
Could a drug addict do what I do?
Apparently. I just let him.
We asked for the stunt coordinator to be there just in case it got physical. We didn't really know how volatile or angry it might get. And it ended up feeling much more like a breakup scene and became really sad.
Robby,
Please. You are done.
In episode 11, those scenes outside the ambulance bay when you're FaceTiming with Jake.
I know you were supposed to be here with Jake, so thank you so much for letting me use your tickets. We're having a blast.
You've got that great scene with Collins at the rear of the ambulance.
I got pregnant a few years ago. I never told him.
Those scenes operate at a very different pace. He's not necessarily thinking about work. He's thinking about these people who matter most in his life. Why was now the right time to sort of slow things down and let audiences in a little bit more?
Do you think he'd forgive me if he knew?
Yes.
Well, we want you to lean in nice and close so that we can really hit you squarely in the face with what's coming next.
Multiple GSWs. There's an active shooter at Pitt Fest.
Yeah, certain moments get earned. You need to indulge in the professional for a while, and then you need to reveal the toll that's taking on the personal is. So you're kind of going micro, macro, inside our characters and outside our characters. And by the time you get to episode 11, you've invested quite a bit in our characters, and they've carried quite a lot of their day up until that moment. So it earns the breath, the relationships at this point. The audience is thirsty for context, and it seems appropriate to give it. And there's an opportunity with the two characters sitting in an ambulance and nobody else needing him at that moment for it to feel organic and not forced. There's a sort of, like I said, a little bit of a reset before where we go with the last third of the season.
You and we've spoken at great length about this emotional journey that Robby finds himself on this season. We've also been speaking about how he has learned to compartmentalize trauma to just sort of get on with the day. It's become something of a survival tactic for him. Do you think there's any one sort of stimuli here, whether it be Jake asking Robby why he couldn't save Leah, or just the fact that he is back in this room where 4 years ago he took Adamson off ECMO, that ultimately is the thing that makes him snap, that leads to this meltdown?
I think we've been watching this come all day, and that it was if one factor didn't line up, if the stars had aligned slightly differently, maybe this could have been averted, but it's all of it. It's all of it coming at once in that room. And, to whatever degree Jake holds Robby responsible, Robby holds himself 10 times more responsible, even if there's nothing he could have done. Just the fact that he couldn't perform the miracle is enough to put him into a shame spiral. And then having that potentially sever the one familial tie, the one anchoring relationship that he feels, good about, just is this proverbial straw that breaks the camel's back.
the inability to hold it back any longer, the desire to not have Jake be attendant to it, not watch it, all of that just kind of snowballed.
A scene like this requires you to get to a very dark place. Every actor's process differs. How do you get there?
Well, I'm a little funny, you know. I look at days of work like that like Christmas morning. You know, I can't tell you how much I was looking forward to that day. I've been waiting for that day for 5 years. A day where I could go in there and one-to-one channel my own pent-up grief, disappointment, anger, frustration, fear that I carry, that I've been carrying. It was harder to keep it in over the course of the season, where it was inappropriate to have it come out, than it was to shoot that. And when I just remember thinking, like, in the way that actors can be masochists, like, ooh boy, today I get to some shit up.
Did knowing it was all building to this and all this anticipation leading to this moment make it easier to tap into all that when it finally came time to wheel Jake out of the room and just...
Oh yeah, it's been a wonderful drumbeat. You know, it's been a wonderful metronomic sort of, you know, the whole thing has been a gift to be able to have this sort of singular piece of music that exists in this larger tapestry of Robby's emotional rise and fall. It's just been an absolute dream come true. It's exactly the kind of work that turns me on. It's such fine brush work. It's really detailed. You have to bring in the last episode into the next, and the last two into the next, and the last three into the next. And I love the challenge. I love the focus. I love the sense of camaraderie it fostered among everybody working in there together. We fed off of each other, and you know, and we got to spike the football. You know, it went well.
SWAT found the shooter. Self-inflicted gunshot to the head.
The internet has largely been convinced that David is the shooter. I've seen some people even theorizing that maybe Doug Driscoll goes on a rampage. But we ultimately reveal that the cops have caught this guy. He's dead. They found him in a bush. It's not a character we know. Beyond just subverting expectations, what was the idea there about making the identity of the shooter sort of irrelevant?
The identity of the shooter is irrelevant. You know, the motivation of the shooter is irrelevant. That has absolutely nothing to do with the horrific nature of the work that these people have to perform and the aftermath of this. So why give it any attention? It's certainly not going to make any difference at this point in any of the people's lives who are in our environment. That said, we did enjoy the misdirect of having a lot of people think it was David or Doug Driscoll, or, you know, I even read some wilder theories in that. But that was to underscore the sort of storyline that we really wanted to explore with David's character about misunderstanding at every level, trying to connect, but missing at the crucial moments when that connection really needs to be in place. Otherwise, it can trigger suspicion, paranoia, panic, over-involvement, you know, lapse in judgment. All sorts of things happen in the wake of our bias and our misinterpretation and our misunderstanding of David's behavior.
I told you he didn't do it.
I know, but you said yourself his threats were serious.
Were we wrong to intervene? Maybe not, but we were wrong in this particular case to assume that it was one-to-one. And I think that that's another important lesson to take from this, is that while, you know, thought crimes are not crimes, but they could be cries for help or needs for attention or for analysis. And I think that was an important message to get across.
Leah didn't make it.
Oh my God.
He is kind of blaming me for not saving her.
In episode 14, we finally meet Robby's ex, played by Sarah Jane Morris. Talk to me a bit about finally introducing this character and how crucial a role you think she still plays in Robby's life at this point.
Good question. Well, firstly, it was very kind of lovely and ancestral in a way that Sarah Jane is married to Ned Brower, who plays Nurse Jessie on the show. So it was kind of fun that they got to work together on the same day that we were all working together. For Sarah, it was incredibly challenging to jump in on this train at that late stage in that moment. I mean, she literally comes to work. First day, the entire set is covered in blood. We're all covered in blood, and she's got to come in at this high level of emotion and concern and have an immediate history and connection with me. It's a daunting task, and she was brilliant, just brilliant.
Hey, look at me. Jake loves you, okay?
Why have her come in at this stage? It just seemed appropriate to bring in somebody who has zero frame of reference for Robby in this environment. We haven't met somebody like that yet as a grown up, except for Jake. Somebody who knows his tendencies to blame himself and to go into a sort of shame spiral. Someone who knows his intentions are pure and honorable, even if a little damaged. Someone who she has affection for, but also was probably hurt by, but has rationalized that by at least her son has a good positive male role model in his life, and that outweighs whatever disappointment she may feel that the relationship didn't work out.
I wasn't aware of that connection, that casting connection, which leads me to another one, which is you have Brad Dourif coming in, playing Cassie's dad.
Thank you so much for coming in to pick up Harrison.
Are you okay?
I mean, relatively speaking, I'm fantastic.
Was that cameo always intended, or did that sort of come together at last minute?
So last minute, and blessedly so, because I doubt that we probably could have pulled it off if we had planned it, but it was so kind of quick and easy to accomplish that I was so excited because I'm a huge Brad Dourif fan. I've been a fan of Brad's, not just, Cuckoo's Nest, but Wise Blood and Mississippi Burning. I mean, his character on Deadwood was like giving an acting lesson every week. I mean, I've been a fan of his forever. I think his work is exceptional.
This place will break your heart. But it is also full of miracles, and that is a testament to all of you coming together and doing what we do best.
I was thinking about the contrast between two very specific scenes. There's the one in episode 9 where Robby's debriefing everyone after they lose that young drowning victim. And he's about to get emotional, and then he sort of just has to snap back into action. He doesn't have a chance to really feel what he's feeling. And then we jump ahead to the debrief he gives in episode 15, and he just cannot fight back those tears.
We saw 112 mass casualty patients come through here in the last 4 hours. And 106 of them are going to live.
I was curious if that was in the script from the get-go in 15, or if part of that was Noah feeling some emotion, looking out at all these people, feeling proud of what you'd accomplished at the end of these 15.
Well, both. I mean, it wasn't scripted that Robby gets emotional and breaks down at this particular point in the speech. It was hard for me at various points in the season to suppress the emotion that was inappropriate to come out when I would look at these young people, young actors, young doctors, and impart something. And in doing so, realize that I was running the risk of revealing something both about myself or about my character to them. And in episode 9, that starts to come up. And then it's like, yeah. Maybe that's not such a good idea. Thank you for the interruption. Yeah. Don't overshare. That's probably not healthy.
You just gave a speech titled How to Literally Bury Your Feelings. Now, Phil, excuse me, I gotta break up a fight.
And then we see what happens from not sharing it. It needs to come out. It comes out in the most violent of ways. He has the breakdown. And then on the other side of the breakdown, there's no filter and there's no self-consciousness any longer. There's just the need to have everybody understand that this is human and that this is healthy, to get it off your chest, to allow yourself to release this grief, this feeling, to process this.
Go home, let yourselves cry. You'll feel better. It's just grief.
He's just no longer able to put the mask on.
We've been friends a long time. I would hate it.
No, we're not friends. And you're not my father, so f*** off.
That final FU from Jake that sends Robby to the roof. Do you think that that is sort of a period at the end of this relationship, or do you think that there is a chance to repair it in season 2?
Great question. I think Robby senses that there's no coming back from this one. Not in the same way that we once had it. What we had is really going to be tainted forever. I don't know that in that moment Robby wants in it any more than Jake does, if that's the way it's going to be. And then the 1-2 punch is then having to go tell Leah's family that she's gone. And then the idea of going back to work and it's chaos. It's just like, what's the point? What am I doing any of this for? You're going to go home alone now with one less person in your life. So I think that's what drives him up to the roof and out a little farther than Abbott had stood that morning, and a little bit more into the existential void than he's ever been in before. And it would have been interesting to see where the scene would have gone if Abbott hadn't come out.
The moment everybody needed me the most, I wasn't there. Couldn't do it. I choked.
For what? For 40 seconds?
I wanted to talk a bit about that scene because, of course, we start the season with Robby talking Abbott off a ledge, and now we're coming full circle. Abbott's talking him off a ledge.
In the way that movie business sometimes plays itself out, we shot this show completely in sequence, except those scenes in Pittsburgh, which we shot in September. The park scene, the helicopters stuff that was early in the season, and the roof scenes, both the first scene and the last scene, were shot on the same day, in Pittsburgh in September. So Sean and I woke up really early. We went up there for sunrise, and then we went back at nightfall, and we shot the other half of it. And in between were 15 episodes that mostly hadn't been shot and certainly hadn't been written. And we were guessing. We were guessing about what was going to happen to get him up on that roof. We make references to Robby having given a speech that had not been written.
All you can do is focus on the medicine. The medicine's the only thing that saves the patient and your sanity.
Structurally, it worked really nicely just to sort of have Abbott be a guy who likes to flirt with the idea of danger. Because he's come so close to it, it makes him feel alive to flirt with death. And that's actually what sends him back home, is looking into the abyss. Robby's the opposite of that. Robby's now thinking that the abyss looks a lot better than home. And that's what he gets from the Abbott characters. Of course you do. Of course you do. Because of what you've just been through. And what you've just been through is abnormal. And the brain only knows how to deal with abnormal one way, and that's to deconstruct, desensitize, and check out. You just proved that you were human, not that you were fallible.
Noah, thanks as always for doing this. Look forward to touching base soon.
I look forward to it. Thank you so much. Thank you for all your enthusiasm and your support. And it's really been lovely to talk to you, thoughtful questions, but moreover, I can feel your excitement about the show, and it makes a difference. So thank you.